G'day, Paul. How are you? Yeah, we can see you. Yep. No, we can see. I can see you all right, so that's good. Yeah. Cool. Well, I can hear the town bells in the background, so that must mean it's time to start. We've got a pretty small group, which is should make my job a little bit easier as well. And I'll just share my screen. If it wants to let me. Just one moment while I do this. Um, Pick the right one. Cool. There we go. So thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Tim Doyle. I'm one of the directors here at Evans Doyle. And tonight we're going to be having a fairly broad introduction to Xero accounting software. So 15 years ago, when I first started accounting, we'd have clients that bring us a big stack of bank statements, and we'd spend days as a junior accountant coding them up, looking at check butts and seeing what the check was to, and then we'd write that down on the bank statement and give it a code. And that might take 1 or 2 days. And then the next day, you'd actually punch that using a whole bunch of numbers and amounts into the computer system. And that's what I did. And times have changed since then, and we've now got accounting software such as Xero that can streamline a lot of that processes for us, and that's what we're going to have a look at. So just a bit of a brief introduction to the evening. I'm probably going to talk to you for maybe only 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to spend another 15 or 20 minutes actually having a look of the software and giving you a little bit of a demonstration about that. And so I can get the most out of this to make it specific to your guys, to you on the call. It would be really great if you could just pop in the chat maybe what your business does. Are you GST registered, and do you have employees? And as we'll go along, so if everyone just wants to do that in the chat now, that would be super helpful. Because as we'll see, there's different levels of Xero subscriptions, and that's quite customizable depending on the user. We had this session in person in the office yesterday, and again, we had a nice group of about 8 or 9 people, and we could actually all introduce ourselves and go around the room and have a bit of a discussion, but I won't do that tonight. But I'll just so we've got Andrea, who's in commercial construction, registered for GST, no New Zealand employees. Cool. Paul, I know a little bit about your background from Jane, so seen a little bit of what you get up to, which is great. And Paul, you're already using Xero, so okay. Yeah, that's all right. I can probably have a look at that a bit later. Yeah, cool. Cool. Manufacturer aviation parts. Oh, that's pretty interesting. GST registered, have employees. Fantastic. Cool. Thanks for that. Cool. So I guess if I start off, animal healthcare, GST registers, have employees. Fantastic. Cool. That's great to know. Thank you, Michael. So I guess Xero for our clients is all about the sort of changing landscape of accounting. Whereas when I first started as accountant, as I mentioned, clients would bring us records, we'd prepare the financial statements, we'd tell them how much tax they've got to pay, and it was a very backwards looking conversation. Whereas now, I don't know if anyone's gone to the bank recently, but to get a bank loan, it's very difficult. They want financial statements, they want budgets, they want cash flows, they want up-to-date information. And that's where Xero can come in and provide that information at your fingertips. So it enables us to track your accounting and your business in real time, to monitor it, to have a fast feedback loop. And part of this is really a little bit of a change from being compliant, and we still obviously do that, that's very important, but to more business improvement and how you can get the most out of your business. And part of that's having information available at your fingertips. So if I jump into what is Xero effectively, It's accounting software. It has a monthly subscription, and it sucks the information out of your bank account and it brings it into this accounting software. And it's separate from your bank though. It's safe, it's secure. We can't touch your money, but we can see the transactions. And then we tell Xero what each transaction is for. And this will become very clear later on when I dive into actually the demonstration. So up on the screen here that you guys can see what it does. But rather than go through this, I'm going to come back to this and actually show you all of these features when I talk through the software demonstration. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that, but it can do all of those factors there. So why should someone look at using Xero? So it's cloud-based. So what that means is that any person with an internet connection can use it. So we can use it in the office here. I can use it as my home computer. I could access it at the beach, the farm, overseas. I can access it on my phone. I could access it on a tablet, and I could do my invoicing or my bank reconciliation from anywhere. So there's no clunky software, there's no updates. It's fast, efficient. You just log on through Google, through your web browser. So think of it like internet banking or like TradeMe or one of those social media apps. You can log in it from anywhere with an internet connection. It's really easy to use. So it's very intuitive. If you can use internet banking, TradeMe, social media, you'll find Xero very, very easy to use. In my opinion, they place a lot of emphasis on the design and that user interface, and our team love using it. Our clients love using it because of that ease to use. You can't really stuff it up either. With some other software, you think you can stuff things up. I've been using Xero for over 10 years now, and there's been nothing that I can't fix, put it that way. But hopefully, if you get some training right at the start, you can set it up and use it really efficiently from day one. It's one touch. So what I mean by that is that imagine that you're preparing a GST return in Excel. So I don't know what software some of you use at the moment to do your GST returns, but to do a GST return in Excel, you'd have to find out all your sales, put that into an Excel sheet, do a calculation, and then find out the same for expenses. And then when it comes to do the financial statements at the end of the year, we'd have to take those GST returns, then reanalyze them to then do the financial statements. So we're double handling things. Whereas with Xero, and again, I'm going to show you this in a moment, once you tell Xero what each transaction is for, it automatically goes to the GST return. It automatically goes to the profit and loss or the balance sheet. It automatically reconciles with the invoicing and they talk together. So that's what I'm meaning by one touch. It's efficient, and that enables us to be more efficient with your accounts and be more timely, but it also enables you to have that information at your fingertips as well. And feel free to interrupt me or put questions in the chat as we go along if there's anything that you're unsure about. It's got multiple user access. So what that means is that we can have access, you can have access. If there's someone in your business that you want access, they can have access. And there's also different rights or different permissions that they can have access to as well. So some of our team just have access to invoicing. No one apart from Jane and I think, has access to the payroll. So if there's someone who pays the bills or does the invoicing, but you don't want them seeing the bank account balances, there's ways to set up systems and permissions for what you need. Quite often I'll be on a call to the client and they'll be, hey, can you do this transaction in Xero for me? Maybe it's a one-off vehicle purchase or a property purchase, and they're wanting to get their GST return done, and we can jump in straight away, do it then and then they can wait on the other side and immediately file their GST return. Efficient, so I think I've spoke about that enough already. Cost effective, I think it's pretty well priced, and I'm going to touch on the pricing shortly. And it's for all different business sizes. So some people have this misconception that you only need software if you're for a large business. if you're GST registered and not using an accounting software, that would be the number one thing that I think that you could do to get some time back and to improve your business. If any new client comes to me today and says, hey, I'm GST registered, it's just a no-brainer. It's almost like a default pattern to recommend Xero. Even if you're a one-man band with no employees, Xero can definitely save you time, save you cost, and make it a lot less easier. And again, there's no sending bank statements back and forth. You've got all the information there. One thing that I haven't touched on is that there's a lot of what we call Xero add-ons. So Paul's a large dairy farmer down in the South Island. He's the chairman down there, and there's an add-on for dairy farmers called Figured, and that what it does is, I'm not going to do this justice at all because I'm not that over farming that much. That's sort of Jane's element, but it keeps track of livestock tallies. It keeps tracks of all particular dairy farming, agriculture needs. A couple of other examples of Xero add-ons are inventory. So there's a couple of products called Unleashed that keep track of all inventory, or point of sale systems, or job costing systems. So there's all of this software that's layered on top of Xero as a foundation there, or other payroll systems, although Xero has its own payroll system as well. So definitely if those other elements are of interest to you, let us know, because we do have some clients using those and have a few recommendations. So one of the things that I dislike sometimes about these types of presentations is they leave the pricing right to the end, and you're like, okay, just tell me how much it's cost so I can think about that. So this is the pricing, and this is what I mean by that there's different levels of Xero packages depending on what you need. So I'm just going to quickly run through these. So maybe let's not worry too much about ledgers. We use that for some of our clients who internally. A non-GST cash book. So that means that you've got access to the bank feeds coming through automatically into your Xero file, but you can't prepare a GST return and you can't do your invoicing through Xero. And in a moment after the slide, I'm going to show you how to do invoicing and how to do GST returns in Xero. This is the price per month. A GST cash book, that is, again, the bank feeds come in and you can do your GST returns through Xero, but you can't do invoicing through Xero. And just a note on that, that doesn't mean that you have to use Xero for your invoicing. If you're only sending out 3 or 4 invoices a month or less, I would recommend that the GST cash book is sufficient, because you could use an Excel template to do your GST invoicing from. So it's going to save you. You can see the difference there is about $30 a month. Whereas the standard business, that has all the invoicing function. And with the invoicing function, it keeps track of all of those invoices, and it keeps track of when they're paid as well. And that's what I said, you kind of have to be at a higher level to justify that. So if you're sending out lots of invoices a month and you've got lots of customers and you need to keep track of them, the standard business is definitely the way to go. But if you were a consultant, then the GST cash book, sending out 1 invoice a month to 1 customer, would be more than sufficient. The starter is kind of a hybrid between these two. It limits you to 5 invoices a month, which for some businesses can be great, but it takes away one of what I think is one really good efficiency for processing called cash coding. And I know this is not going to make too much sense at a moment, but I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes. And the key difference between the standard business and the business premium is the business premium has foreign currency. So if you've got US bank accounts or a Euro bank accounts, it will automatically convert those transactions into New Zealand dollars, do all of the foreign currency calculations, etc. for you. So any package, the starter, the standard business, and the premium business has the ability to add on payroll as well. The cash books you can't add payroll to. And payroll's $10 a month for the first employee, and then $1 extra a month for every subsequent employee. Before we jump into the software demo, has anyone got any questions? You're a small group, so all speak up or put something in the chat. But if there's otherwise nothing, I'll keep moving on. Okay, we'll keep going, and if anything pops up, let me know. So I'm just going to switch over to this screen. So hopefully everyone's now seeing the actual Xero. So you can see here, let me know if you're not. Disregard this here, this just means I'm recording it. What this here is, you've seen I've logged on through Google Chrome, and I'm in a demo company here. So this isn't anyone's data, it's just a demo company. And the first thing that we can see here is we've got 2 bank accounts. And this is what I mean by the bank accounts have linked to internet banking, sucked out the transactions, and they've came into Xero. This one has this live feed automated, so that process is happening automatically. This one doesn't have any live feed set up yet. Also on this dashboard, we can see what invoices are owed to us. So we can see that we've got $7,000 overdue from 5 invoices, and we've got 12 that are awaiting payment. We can see here that we've got bills to pay as well. And we can set up account watch lists as well. So if there's anything that we want to keep track of and keep track of costs that's important to our business, we can keep track of it here too. So the number one sort of what I think is really, well, one of the things that I think is really good is this bank reconciliation. So there's 28 items here that have came through from the bank account, and I just need to tell Xero what they're for. So for example, this payment here on the 13th of June, $4,500 was spent to Smart Agency. Over here, I just write who it's to. So in this case, it's to Smart Agency. I could write what it's for, advertising. And did anyone see that there automatically changed the GST as well? So if that wasn't right, I could change the GST. And then I could also put in an invoice description as well, invoice 99. And then what I could do is click OK, and now Xero has coded that transaction. And by coding that transaction, it's gone to my profit and loss statement as advertising expenses. It's gone to my GST return as GST is on that expense. So I've told Xero what it's for, and I can move on to another transaction. Let's just say this one, you'll see how this one here is automatically pre-populated. So Xero has an AI function that it will remember what you coded it to last time. So in this case, this is a reoccurring transaction, and that's why Xero has pre-suggested that I code it to here, because that's where it was last time. So I can straight away click OK. You can also see this one here has a rule. So what a rule is a bank rule. So what this means is that every time 711 comes up, it automatically codes it for me. So I can see here, if I click on this rule, that if the criteria, which will be the conditions, the payee is 711, it's coded to office expenses. So it can save a lot of time once it gets to know your business. So I'll click OK on that. There is another way to do this, and that's that cache coding screen that I mentioned. So this one isn't available in the starter, but it's available for anything else. And I think that this is quite helpful, because what I like to do is put it on payee, and then I can see here that I've got these 6 or 5 parking transactions all in a row. So slightly different way, but we're doing exactly the same thing as what I was doing before. So I can put in a description. These are $12, so I'm not going to worry about a description, but I can put the account in. And you can see here that I just start typing what it's in. So I put travel. Or if let's just say it wasn't parking, it was something else, I can start putting codes in, or I can search from down here and just click on them as well. And you'll see the GST pops up too. Now with this cache coding, I can put my cursor here and just hit the plus sign on my keyboard, and it repeats what was directly above it as well. And then I could come down here and click save and reconcile all, and it will automatically code all of those transactions there. So again, let's just say this is Whitcoulls, this is stationery. I just started typing in stationery, clicked enter, okay. So it's pretty intuitive and easy to use. I prefer the cache coding screen over the reconcile screen, unless I'm matching up invoices, which is probably a good place to go. So very quickly, that's the way that we get the information into Xero. There's a whole lot of reports that we can look at, such as bank reconciliation reports, and make sure that our balance in Xero actually matches the bank statement balance. So this is an example of one of these reports. This one here specifically doesn't balance. So it says that the balance is out by $9,700. So we could, that's obviously an error. We could drill into that, find it, and sort that out. So it's got a good check there, I guess, or a good robust system to make sure that we're not missing everything, everything's captured, and everything reconciles. And as accountants, we like that. The next factor that I'm going to show you, going back to my list, is most people here are GST registered. So I'm going to show you the GST return. And you would have seen that that transaction, I think it was Smart Agency, $4,500, and I'll just show you that again. Let's just pick another one. Say this Cooper Street Bakery. I'm trying to show you here two sort of features in one. Let's just say that this is drawings. So it's not related to the business, and we'll saw that that GST status changed to no GST. So I'm going to click OK on that. I'm now just going to refresh, and hopefully the immediate one below it, see how it's remembered what I coded that last one to. So now that's into the system, and I can just click OK. Now, when I go to my GST return, which is as simple as going to accounting GST return, those transactions that I just told Xero what it's for are going to be in my GST return that we're going to look at. Now, this is just part of a setup because this is a demo, so this would automatically, would normally be set up for you. But we can see now that there's one return due, which is for April, May. It's due on the 28th of June. I've got 6 days left. So again, let's just dive in here and have a look. And we can see that this pre-populates my GST return for me. So it has all my sales, has the GST on sales, has an amount of GST for me to pay. And what I'd recommend that everyone does with their GST returns is they review them and make sure that they're correct. So we can go to the GST audit report. And this has a transaction history of every single transaction that makes up those numbers in the GST returns. So it's all there, it's all available, it's all in your fingertips. There's no need to get a calculator or an Excel spreadsheet out. There's no risk of getting a 9 and a 1 back to front and paying GST on $91 rather than $19, which we've all done before. What I like to do is sort these on accounts, so it kind of groups them together and just makes it a little bit easier to review. Now, I was going to try and point out that $4,500 Smart Agency invoice that you would have seen I coded earlier, but I've just realized I've made the return only up to 31 May. So I'm just I might confuse you a little bit here, don't worry if I do. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into the period so far, and we'll come back to that other one. So this is the draft return of the period so far. You'll see that there's still some statement lines on the bank to reconcile, so it won't actually let me complete this. But if I jump to the audit trail, we can straight away see that, hey, this was the transaction here that I coded already, and there's my GST on it. So it's all there, it's all done. You'll see that these here are all I'll just put this on account order, and you'll see here, these are all the parking transactions I coded as well. And if you got one wrong, that's cool. You could just click on it. In this case, I've just opened it up in a new tab, come back here, options, a little bit trickier, remove and redo. What that does is it sends it back to the bank reconciliation, and then I can code it in there correctly and redo it. So let's just jump back into that GST return that was the draft. Say I had reviewed this, it was all correct, I'm happy with it. What I would do is I would come down to the bottom, click save as final. I've got a couple of logins, so let's just say I'm authorizing this myself. Save it. And what that does is it locks it down in Xero, which is really important. But this is the cool part. I can just now click this and it will file it with the IRD. What it will take me to is this myR. I log in and then it will file it. Now, it won't actually file this because it's a dummy company in the tax ID number is just 1111111, and it comes up with a big red box here. But for any other client or yourselves, it would automatically file that with the IID. So there's no transposing numbers or anything like that. You just need to now pay it through your internet banking, or if it's a refund, you're done. That report automatically gets saved down in Xero as well. So there's no need to download it. There's no need to duplicate it. You're done. We can access it. You can access it. IRD Connect has a copy of it. That's it. So it's very efficient as a filing system too. If you've made a mistake at this and already filed it with IRD, and say you went back and made that mistake, Xero will actually pick that up automatically and bring it into the next GST return as well. So I think that's pretty cool too. Of course, if it was a big mistake like a land purchase that's gone wrong or something that's a bit more material, we'd actually make a voluntary disclosure and go back to IRD and fix it up. But for say $100 of GST that was missed, we'd just put it into the next GST return and Xero will do that automatically for you. So that's GST returns. The next thing that I'm going to cover off briefly is invoicing, because I see that a few of you are probably interested in that as well. So here, Xero's got many different ways to go to places as well. So here I could click on this, I could click on business invoicing, and you'll see that they'll sort of take me to very similar places, or here sales overview. So you can access this from business, you can access it from the dashboard, same thing. And what you'll notice here is we can create invoices as drafts, awaiting approval, payments. So there's different levels as well. We can also add quotes if we like to. So let's create an invoice. Let's create this invoice to myself. So I've just put my name in there. The due date, now you can pre-populate this based on all of your terms as well. I'm just going to go plus 14 days. And what I'm going to do is just, this actually has some pre-populated items. So you can set these items up. So if you're involved in animal healthcare, I'm just trying, so say there was some drugs that you always used or something like that, you could set them up here as an item, or a travel charge or aviation parts, you could set them up here and everything could come here. And then say I'm a bad golfer, so I need 1,000 golf balls. That could be my invoice. I could then approve it. Of course, you can have multiple line items or anything like that. I can print this to a PDF. I'll just show you what that looks like. So this is what the customer would get. And you can see that they can view and pay online as well. So Xero's actually teamed up with Stripe and PayPal to accept payments. So the customer can click on this and they'd get taken to a payment link to actually pay now, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously, I don't have this one set up. Now, what you can do as well, Stripe have a credit card merchant fee. You can on-charge that to your customers too. So might speed up your cash flow if you offer those kind of payment services as well. All of this is completely customizable as well. So you can have your logo, your bank account, your payment terms, however you'd like that to look too. You can email it. So in this case, I'll email it to, let's just see if this works. I'll just email it to my personal email address, and then I can actually show you that. So that way it's sent to the customer. So the other thing that it does is, I mentioned at the start it was one touch. So now that I've created that invoice, it sits as my accounts payable as awaiting payment. So I can see that this invoice is here. And I can also see that on my sales summary that this invoice is now jumped up here, and I've got a direct list here of customers that owe the most. So if I just show you, you just have to ignore any other personal emails that have popped in here. But here is the invoice. So this is what the customer gets here, invoice from the demo company, and they've got the option to pay now, or they can download a PDF file of that as well. They've actually even got the ability, if they use Xero, to pull it into their Xero automatically too. So that's how it works for the customer perspective. As I said, at the same time, you would have seen that when we did that invoice, we told Xero that it has GST on it. sorry, that's a statement. So there's ability to email statements as well. But if I drive in here, so we've told Xero that it's for sales and the tax rate's 15% GST. So what happens is, let's just say that the customer pays this invoice, and hopefully they'll pay that through the bank account. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a maybe slightly more obscure invoice just to show it stand out a little bit. So obviously you've got the standards, credit notes, statements, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another invoice to myself. And let's just say that this was for some accounting services, because that's what I do. And let's just say we're really expensive. So I just want something there to stand out. So ignore that. So now I've created this invoice. Of course, I could have saved that as a draft or waiting approval or something like that. I've got lots of invoice options here to add credit notes, email it, copy it, repeat it. So if there was a monthly AP or monthly invoice, we could repeat that invoice every month. But let's just say now that someone pays this invoice, and you would have seen in I see how that's jumped up 100 grand because it's gone there as well. You would have seen that these first two boxes up here are green. And why they're green is what happens with Xero is that if the invoice amount and the invoice number is the same, so we can see here that our bank statement's telling us that we've received $6,187.50 from Ridgeway for invoice 35, it automatically matches it to that particular invoice that's sitting in Xero waiting to be paid. So all I need to do is go OK. So let's just say this one here was a payment for that invoice that I just created for $100,000. Now, the reason they're not matching is because this doesn't have an invoice number and the amounts aren't the same. It's a part payment. Let's just say that was the story. So what I'd do is I'd go match, and then this brings up all of my accounts receivables, and I can see that, hey, it's a payment for this invoice here. And in this case, I'm splitting the payment because it's only $1,000. Again, I realize that this is a little bit more technical rather than just matching one for one, but there's just the functionality to do that. And then I've reconciled. It's just given me a warning there because the invoice date is dated after the payment. So and let's just do the same for this one because it's sitting here. So again, I'm just going to match it to that payment. Obviously, there's $99,000 outstanding and the payment's only $1,500, so I'm going to do a split payment and reconcile that. So if I now jump back to my sales overview, you'll see that straight away Tim Doyle's total has now gone to 103 because we can see that, hey, there's $2,500 payments allocated against that one invoice. So that's how the matching principle works. So that's all I really wanted to cover off on invoicing and accepting the payments. There's the ability to send quotes as well. I'm going to cover quickly a little bit about the reporting, and then we'll move to payroll, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion if any questions. So just to let you know where I'm going here. So reporting, there are tons of reports here based on live information about your business. And it's really what you're going to do with those reports. And that's where Jane, Rolo, and Mike, and some of the senior team can come in and have a conversation about your business based on the information that we're seeing. So, hey, if you've got a commercial construction business, which we've got here, hey, what's the industry standard on margin? 25, 30%. Okay, how does your business stack up to that? How many employees have you got? What's your percentage of employees compared to your turnover, compared to your margin? What's your margin? What's your biggest expenses? Let's dive into some of those details. Manufacturing, aviation parts. I haven't seen another business like that before, but we can definitely drill into the detail and at least compare that maybe year on year, see what's happened, see what that margin stacks up compared to some other businesses, depending if you're B2B, B2C, etc. Animal healthcare, I don't know if that's contracting or vets or more ag based, but yeah, we do have some other clients like that as well. I like to think that we're pretty good at recognizing or helping businesses owners achieve their goals. And I think that's what hopefully separates us from other accountants, is that we don't just look at the numbers and say this is how much tax you've got to pay. Say, what are you actually trying to achieve? What's the roadmap to get there, and how can we help you achieve that? So just to show you some of those reports, there's business snapshots, business performance. Xero's been quite good because clients look at this and then they come and ask us questions because they're hungry to know more. They want to know more. You'll see that creating that invoice for 100,000 in here, that's why I made it such a big number, because it moves the needle quite a lot, as we can see. So we can see net profit margin, gross profit margins, expenses, cash balances, average time to get paid. If your average time to get paid in your business is 40 days, that's terrible. You've probably got a month worth of your profit sitting there with your customers in their bank accounts, not in your bank accounts. So all these kind of information that is available to you, and it's things like that that straight away stand out to me as going, oh, there's an immediate chance there for you to get a whole month's worth of your turnover into your bank account. Just yesterday, I sat down with a client. She's a consultant to some large pharmaceutical companies, most of them in Australia. And in that situation, her payment terms were actually extended out to 90 days. So she's doing work today and she's not going to get paid to 90 days. And we discussed it at length. And unfortunately, in that situation, there was definitely nothing that we could do about it because she's one person compared to these big pharma companies. But it definitely helped her understand why all of a sudden there's a massive pinch in paying her mortgage and paying her GST because of the change in terms, which we weren't aware of until we had that discussion. So as far as these other reports, the ones that I quite like to look at is a cash summary. So the saying goes, cash is king. Very true in small businesses. And again, these reports are fully customizable as well. So at the moment, we're looking at just June for this particular demo company. We can see that they've got a cash deficit. The owner's taken out some drawings, and the bank account's gone from $10,000 at the start of the month to $6,700 at the end. We can compare this with the last month or the last 10 months if we wanted to, or the last 10 years or the last 10 quarters. There's a very, very wide range to slice and dice this information however you like. It's obviously what you do with the information that matters. I quite like comparing a profit and loss this year compared to a profit and loss last year. And obviously we can do that within a few clicks of a button. But I'll give you another example. Just last 7th of May, everyone pays their 2000, in this case it was 2023, last payment of provisional tax. For those clients using Xero, if we've just done their 31 March GST return, we know everything's coded. We can see to a pretty accurate level how well their business has done over the financial year. If it's done more than the prior year, we can tell them, okay, look, you need to pay more tax. Or hey, if it hasn't done as well because of other reasons, then you can actually reduce payments, and that way you save cash flow or prevent use of money interest. So those are some sort of more practical examples of what I mean by having the efficiency and the information available. So let's just look at this for the past 2 months. What else? I can also add like a year to date or a percentage of trading income. So we can see that that percentage looks a bit ugly, but here, so this is the first 3 months of the financial year. There's obviously that large $100,000 invoices that I created. Again, we're not that expensive, but that's why I made it big so it stands out. If I wanted to drill into any of these, I could just open them up. I could click in here, but I prefer to open things up in new tabs, and then I can come back to this report. And just go that way. Let me go there. So here's now all of the transactions that make up June sales. So I've got them all here. I can dive in and actually see them. Again, if we're sitting down with a client, oh, my subscriptions look really high for last year. Okay, well, let's have a look and actually see where you're spending the money. Hey, do you actually need all of these? What are they for? Are they valuing your business? Is it appropriate? So you've got all of that detail there. We can see that they've made $100,000 profit year to date. The other sort of core report, obviously profit and loss tells us how much profit the business is making. Cash flow tells us how much cash the business has. Key difference, you would have seen in the profit and loss that we had a $100,000 profit to date. And that was because of that $100,000 invoice that I created. But from a cash flow perspective, the cash flow was negative because the cash flow hasn't yet been paid, or that invoice hasn't yet been paid. So that's an example of the difference between profit and cash. And quite often we'll get asked, hey, I've got this big tax bill, where's all the cash gone? And that's why I think that cash flow report is actually key, because it's understanding where your profit's been going, how you're spending it. Are you taking it out for personal use? Are you reinvesting it into the business? Are you buying new vehicles, or what are you doing with it? Are you paying down debt? So all of those things, drawings, buying more inventory, buying more fixed assets, paying down debt, you have to pay tax on that profit before you spend it. So that's where it obviously goes, but we can show you where it goes. And you'll see the last report here is the balance sheet. So if I just do this to the end of today, you'll see that the accounts receivable shows the money that's outstanding from the customers. So this is literally a live view of this demo company's financial performance, financial position, performance, cash flow. The last thing I'm going to touch on is just payroll, because a few of you have employees. I will admit that I am not a payroll expert. Michelle and Tracy from our team do a lot of the payroll setups. They process a lot of payrolls for our clients, as does Kim. So they are definitely far more experienced than me in this particular area. You'll see that some of the features that I like about Xero is we've got the bank account, we've got GST, we've got reporting, we've got invoicing, we've got payroll. They're all under the same umbrella. They're all in Xero. They're all in the same system. So you don't need multiple different projects or software to do all of them. And that makes it quite efficient too. So payroll, you can set up employees, you've got sick days, holidays, you can meet all of those requirements. You've got the payday filing, so hopefully everyone with employees knows what that means already, but basically the information gets sent to IRD seamlessly. You don't have to export it out and import it into the IRD. It integrates as one to meet those obligations. If I just go new pay run, this is what you do with an employee. Your employees can have access to enter their timesheets as well. So if I just go here, process the pay run, we're a bit ahead on the 16th of July, but let's just see, excuse me, how this pops up. And so it pops up with my employees. I can come in here, click on the individual employee, put down how many hours they've worked, if there's a public holiday, accommodation, which is mostly for dairy farmers or people paying for accommodation for their employees, which is taxable. It could equally be a tool allowance, a wet weather gear allowance, a reimbursement for an expense paid on behalf, something like that as well. It deducts the PAYE. Here we've got some mileage reimbursement. So say they did 100 kilometres and I wanted to reimburse them, that could happen as well. Then they deduct the KiwiSaver, the student loan, the rent. That's the employer contribution to the KiwiSaver. That's the tax on the KiwiSaver contribution. You can see all their leave accruals as well. So once that's done, I can go save and on to the next employee, who in this case is the general manager. So that's all there as well. A little bit more setup with payroll, particularly for existing businesses that aren't using Xero Payroll. The key part with the setup there is that you've got to set up each employee, you've got to bring across their holiday pay, their sick leave, their opening balances, and you've got to set up all of their particular details, so their date of births, IRD numbers, rates, salaries, how many days they worked, are they casual, permanent, etc. So there is a little bit more set up in the payroll, but once you've got it there, it runs very smoothly. Our business uses Xero, by the way. We use Xero for everything that we've discussed, invoicing, GST, payroll, etc. A couple of other features just around payroll is that you can get your payslips for your employees. So just as an example, this is the payslip. This can be emailed to them automatically. There's the functionality for all of that as well. There's a pay summary report. So this is, you can see every single employee's and the total, what that pay is going to cost you, $4,900 a pay run. So that's a little bit about the payroll setting as well. Just finally on payroll, some systems some systems can deduct the full PAYE amount and the net employee's wage from your bank account. And then what they do, not Xero, but some other ones can hold the PAYE in a trust account, and then on the 20th of the month following, they pay that to IRD on your behalf. And that's called a payroll intermediary who holds funds on your behalf in their trust account. Xero doesn't do that. You pay your employees the net amount, and then you pay the IRD on the 20th of the month following. So there are different ways to do payroll. Some people like having the automatic deduction of the PAYE because it means that they never miss a payment. They've always got money in their account, and the PAYE isn't paid on the 20th of the month following. Other people want cash in their bank account. They want to utilize that cash as working capital in the short term. So a couple of different options to consider there. Xero is the one that doesn't deduct it from your bank account. They don't touch your bank account. Very, very separate. So that's all I've got to go through with everyone. We've gone through that hopefully relatively briefly and broadly, which is more my overview of what I wanted to achieve. The last thing that I wanted to just come back to is how to switch. Just let us know. We'd set up the bank feeds and the Xero finals for you. We'd bring in the comparative values, the opening bank account balances, the chart of accounts, the GST, and can help you with the invoice setup, linking it to a Stripe account and that kind of stuff too. So yeah, that's an overview. I'd love to get some feedback from you as well. So feel free to email me and ask me any questions or feedback. But for right now, we've got about 10 minutes left. So I kind of throw it over to you guys, and let's see if you've got any questions or if there's anything else that you want me to dive into a little bit more deeper. Can you graph info? What type of info, Paul? No, you can't in Xero, but there is, this is what I mentioned by these add-ons. So there's something called Spotlight Reporting, which is one of those add-ons that sits over the top of Xero, and you'll see reporting, forecasting, and consolidation all in one place. And these guys do have some very, very good graphs and good reporting metrics as well. So are you guys still seeing my screen here? Hopefully, this might not work. Let's just see quickly if I can download this report. I'll just recommend that you go and check out Spotlight Reporting. So we do use this for a few clients. It links into Xero and it sucks out the information from Xero, brings it back into Spotlight, and then it's got all these particular graphs for you. So yes, that would be a way to do that. Yeah. There's a few examples there of some of the graphs that they have. It's quite very, very nice to present that kind of stuff. Andrea, how do you avoid creating numerous contacts when reconciling or cash coding? Good question. What will happen is when you do the reconciling, it will bring up everyone that you already have coded somewhere in the past. So if I give you an example, yep, 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 I get that. Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah, yeah, No, very good question. I'm just going to try this on. It might not go anywhere. What is the downfall of having too many contacts? Like what's okay. Okay, what add-on are you using, sorry? Simpro. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. I don't have a solution for that, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, good question though. Yeah, I guess if it wasn't for that add-on, I'm still trying to picture in the add-on, yeah, how it would flow through and affect the add-on. Yeah, yeah. So sorry, not a home run on that one. Yeah, yeah. No, very good. Yeah. Anyone else got any other comments or questions or anything that they want me to run over? It can be very specific to your business if you like. I do like curly tax questions too. Well, you're all sticking around, so I don't know if anyone's got anything final to say. If you don't want to chat, you can definitely unmute yourself and ask like Andrea did there. That was quite nice. Thanks, Andrea. Can fixed assets be managed? Yes, absolutely. Good question, Terry. We haven't covered that. So yes, so fixed assets, there's a full functionality here in Xero. Here's all of your fixed assets register, so you can add them as draft, registered. You've got full functionality in here. So this demo company has a photocopier. We can add the serial number, we can add the receipts to it, the depreciation settings, private use, everything's here as well. Again, if I wanted to look at the reporting for fixed assets, I'll just bring up our report for fixed assets, which is so I've got a fixed asset reconciliation or a depreciation schedule. And again, this will be fully integrated to the balance sheet of the particular company as well. Not too sure why nothing is there. But the answer is yes, because this is what we use. I'm just seeing what dates these are. These are added in June. So I'm just going to run depreciation and then go back to that schedule and just change this to June. And now we can see that we've got our fixed assets, where they were purchased, the depreciation. We can add columns. We can add all of these different columns are all customized. So I normally like to add the rate and the method. So we can see that, hey, these are 40% diminishing value. So yeah. And hopefully if this is done right, that value there will reconcile with our balance sheet, and that value there will reconcile with our profit and loss, depreciation in the profit and loss statement as well. So yeah, another cool feature that I haven't spent too much time on, which some clients do, some clients love it, some clients hate it, is for every transaction, I don't know if this is going to work just because of what I've got in my downloads file, but most people these days are, this will work, will be emailing out invoices. So I've got a whole bunch of confidential stuff in my downloads, but I've got that particular, I'll just open it as a PDF, this particular PDF that I created earlier for that invoice, which is this one, which I'm sure you all remember. So what I can do is I can drag that across and actually load it into a particular transaction, or store it as a file on the particular transaction. So, or if I'm creating an invoice, I can attach files to these transactions as well. And now, I don't think that's quite done it right because it's already approved, but it will actually store the that particular PDF or that particular invoice here as a copy as well. So it's got the ability, it's a whole, what they call files, which is, this might not necessarily have it. There's another way, quick way to do things as well. Oh, here we go, file library. So there's nothing in that particular library, so it has access to do all of that as well. There's no files there. Drag things in there. So anyway, well, thanks for everyone for coming along this evening. If you'd like to know more, I think everyone has my email address. If not, it's just tim@evansdoyle.co.nz. For the new clients, Mike and Rolo, Mike's actually on holiday at the moment. Rolo was playing, I don't think he was playing golf today, it was a bit wet, but they're still floating around. But by all means, feel free to email me. Paul, I'll probably let you have a bit of a chat with Jane because I know you work quite closely with her, if that's okay. But yeah, thanks very much for coming. And if you are interested in coming across to Xero or just having a chat about your business, just let Jane or I know. So yeah, thanks very much and have a wonderful evening. Cheers. Bye-bye.